Yeah, well, we got to get an update on Uncle Milty, the kind of uncle you don't want coming to your house, but he's coming to the west coast of Florida in the form of looks like right now, and we'll give you the update, a Cat 4 storm as it's getting scarier and scarier. But once again, to lighten this up a little bit, Florida man has come through with us with an amazing act of courage and, yeah, stupidity. Also, the political insiders, the nerds, are saying that Kamala's crash may be a real thing. It's not looking good for her. We'll talk about that. And we also have this to wrap it up today. Coming up, the scariest Halloween story has come from real life, from Lisa Marie Presley from Beyond the Grave. Talk about that, too. Thanks for finding Wicked Radio. My name is Bill Adams. Welcome to it. Wednesday, October 9th already. Yeah, Milton, this just came in a couple of minutes ago, by the way, literally. And this is the morning update if you're watching or finding this later on the repost. It's weakened slightly to a Cat 4 storm with 155-mile-per-hour winds. It feels so weird to talk about a storm that has weakened down to 155 miles per hour. But if you're paying attention to this at all, they're expecting it to strengthen again before it hits the west coast of Florida. The models, we talked about the models a lot yesterday, changed a little bit where they're kind of like having it south a little bit of the Tampa Bay area, and that can always change. Getting more towards like Manatee County, maybe, Sarasota County, excuse me, maybe that area. And then the model's going right across the state and then staying Central Florida as like a Cat 1. Here's a crazy thing. They have modeling and predictions going for this thing crossing the state of Florida. They have models coming together in the middle of the Atlantic for this. That's how far they've come with the technology to be able to predict this kind of stuff. So, you know, evacuation's underway, obviously, for almost everybody over that area, because it's expected to be pretty devastating for all. Once again, Florida man has come through with an amazing story. I'm not going to encourage it. I'm just telling you it's an amazing story. There's a guy in the Tampa Bay area, and his name is Lieutenant Dan. That's what the locals call him over there. Just like Forrest Gump, right? The movie. Lieutenant Dan, in our case here with our story, he has one leg, not two missing legs, and he lives apparently on a sailboat in Tampa Bay. I think you know already where I'm going with this story. He ain't leaving, folks. He's going to ride this thing out. So local news has been talking to him over there. I think the Weather Channel did an interview. Live streamers and podcasters are finding this guy because apparently he's a local legend. He's been there for a long time. I never heard about the guy. I went to college over in the Tampa area, but I never heard about the guy. But I guess he's a veteran. He's a tough guy. It's tough to downplay his reasoning on this, though, and why this guy is actually going to ride out a hurricane in his sailboat. Not encouraging it, but how awesome would it be to find out that this guy is actually going to make it?
So the plan's just to stick it out here?
Yeah, I mean, the water's going to come in, it's going to rise. If you're on land, it's going to flood, you're risking drowning. I'm in a boat. The boat goes up with the water. So even if the boat goes up 100 feet in the air, I'm going to be up 100 feet in the air with the water. So it's really the safest place in the world to be is on my boat. And I got room for one more female.
Did you hear that, ladies? You want to ride out a Cat 4 or Cat 5 storm in Tampa Bay with Lieutenant Dan with one leg. He's got room for you, ladies. Not encouraging that, but honestly, I find myself rooting for this guy so hard. I hope to God he makes it. How great would it be in a couple of days, the end of the week, to find out that Lieutenant Dan made it fine? It's not the safest thing in the world. Is it brave? Yeah. Is it stupid? Oh, yeah. Oh, no doubt about that. But it would be amazing if this guy actually made it. God, I hope he does. That he might be the definition of Florida man. You know, with all the Florida man stories you have out there. I hope Lieutenant Dan does it in his 20-foot sailboat. Man, I hope everybody makes it over there. Obviously, we'll update you as we go. All right. This thing has maybe become the bellwether performance gauge for Kamala Harris, though. There are all kinds of politicians. Yesterday, we talked about DeSantis a lot. Absolutely taking shots at Kamala Harris, who is claiming that this lack of response for Helene and now preparations for Milton is Trump's fault. And she's reached out to DeSantis and she's reached out to Florida officials and she's not hearing back. Every one of them to a person is shooting that down and saying that's absolutely, completely not true. One of those is Representative Anna Paulina Luna. She's from the Pinellas County area on the West Coast, directly affected by this. She had to evacuate too. In fact, she's said she may not have a home to go back to when this thing is all over. So she's in it as well. But she claims, first and foremost, she has not heard one thing from Kamala Harris. Hasn't heard one thing from her. She went on Benny Johnson's show yesterday, another Tampa Bay guy, by the way. The congresswoman said this.
I would have told her again that she has no idea what's happening on the ground, that she has not even bothered reaching out or talking to the other elected officials. You know, she really wanted to help out with this hurricane. Why isn't she on the phone with the Pinellas County EOC? Why isn't she talking to the sheriff in our county? Why is she not sending resources, and why is she taking time to go on a news network instead of actually coming down to Tampa, where we're actually going to be hit the hardest? I mean, I cannot emphasize this enough. Please leave. If you cannot leave and you are in a structure that is not safe, it's not rated for Cat 3 or 4. If you're in a wooden structure, I would take my family and I would go to a shelter.
Like she has too. And I think we have one answer on why she hasn't had time to reach out to all these local officials. She's too busy going on The View and Colbert. And she was on Stern. That's what she's doing. So here we have this interesting situation, and this is why this is like this. I called it like a bellwether kind of like performance. This is where even people, I don't think there's a lot of them out there. The people who are completely undecided about her, they were leaning towards voting for her, but not sure. They're looking at this. The few remaining undecideds out there, they're looking to see how she does. And they see people like that, Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna talking about her, and then you see Kamala on The View and Colbert. And drinking a beer on Colbert. Not a good look whatsoever. But there they were, the brain trust. There's only one audience that's probably dimmer than the people to watch MSNBC. And it's the people, the shut-ins, that sit on their couches in their Snuggies and eat bonbons watching the dingbats on The View. And that's who they are. That may be who they're appealing to. But there they were with the hard-hitting questions. I actually got to give them credit. This is not a bad question at all, really, and it gave us a lot of fodder to talk about. Would you change anything? Would you change anything over the past 4 years? Here's the interesting part, because she's claimed that you can't go back, and they're trying to run her campaign as like she's the challenger, right? And yet still holds on to this thing where I was in on every major decision for the past 4 years. Well, which is it? You got to choose one. Good question, though.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
Would you?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
There it is. There it is. We can't go back to what we've had the past 4 years. You have been the past 4 years. You're in the administration. Once again, maybe this wasn't even planned. She might have slipped up and said this here because they've tried to distance her from that. The I've been part of every major decision deal. Well, she's back to it. She owns it. She's the incumbent because she's been it happened as soon as they pushed Biden out of the way and they got rid of him. There you go. So it's her or the blob running her. She is the administration right now. She is the incumbent. That wasn't the only media tour, though. Oh, no. She went on Colbert. I haven't watched really. It's the Late Show or what the Late Show Colbert? I don't know what it was. Well, here's the kind of leadership you want. People are evacuating. I don't know, 20, 25 million people affected in Florida and points north of this storm bearing down. That's okay. She's drinking beers on the Colbert Show. That's okay because, people want somebody you can relate to.
They just want somebody they can have a beer with.
Yeah.
So would you like to have a beer with me so I can tell people what that's like? Okay.
Oh, she can handle her liquor.
Now, we asked ahead of time because I can't just be giving a drink to the Vice President of the United States without asking. You asked for Miller High Life. You ready Miller High Life? I'm just curious.
Okay, the last time I had beer was at a baseball game with Doug.
Did he bring the nanny?
Okay, cheers.
There you go.
This is the most uncomfortable looking thing of all. I mean, Colbert, too. I mean, come on. The research department for Colbert Show at CBS. Come on. Don't you know she's a wine girl? I mean, bring out an old box of wine for old Kamala there. She's a wine girl, not a beer girl. Come on. She looks so uncomfortable drinking this thing, too. She couldn't have. I know this is a visual, but she put it down. She was like, that's her. There you go. Believe it or not, a little bit of breaking news that just came out here. And the New York Post has it, but other people are picking it up. Speaking of politics, I know, we'll get out of this in just a second here. The New York Post is claiming that Trump, Kamala's opponent, has booked a has booked a rally. No surprise there. The location might surprise you. There's been a lot of people clamoring for this, just dying to see it. We already heard earlier in the week he's going to go to Coachella in California, right? Well, how do you follow that up? You book Madison Square Garden for late this month for a Trump appearance and a rally. How amazing would that be? Is he going to win New York? I don't think so, but you can make some real inroads going forward here. And a rally in Madison Square Garden. He's wanted this. And apparently, the details here. It's set to take place reportedly October 27th. That would be just 9 days before the election day. I think it tells us a couple of different things, guys. First of all, he's feeling it. He's feeling this, but it's like blood in the water. I think he knows he's got a great shot at this. And he's wanted this for a long time. He's obviously a Florida guy now, too. Maybe he's the ultimate Florida man. But he's a New Yorker at heart. And for him to have a triumphant return there in the form of a rally, not the election, but a rally anyway, or Madison Square Garden, that would be absolutely huge. Here's another reason why he's feeling it. So, I don't know. We'll get out of the political woods in here in just a second, but this is interesting. This happened just yesterday. There's a guy named Mark Halperin. I know all the political nerds and the pollsters, people you only hear about every 4 years or every 2 years. They're coming all out of the woodwork. This is a real good one, though. Mark Halperin is one of the few people, he might have been the only one that actually, to the day, predicted correctly when they were going to push Joe aside and run Kamala. Push him down the stairs, get rid of him, and push her as the candidate. He nailed this. And he took a lot of heat at the time because nobody believed him. Well, what is he saying now? He does, I don't know exactly what the show is, but he does some sort of a live stream with Sean Spicer's on there with him, which is interesting because they argue a lot. And some other dude, I don't know who it is. But what Mark Halperin said about the Kamala Harris campaign was fascinating. And this may explain why she's doing such a goofy media tour and drinking beer and talking to The View and doing all this other stuff. And he spoke directly to the Kamala people that don't believe
For
him.
you Harris people on here complaining that we're talking about problems in the Harris campaign,
Yeah.
you're welcome to put your head in the sand about it. If you want to go watch MSNBC primetime and hear how great things are going for the Harris campaign, you're welcome to do that. But if you want to understand what's actually happening, we're here to tell you. I just saw some new private polling today that's very robust private polling. She's in a lot of trouble. Here's how I framed it this morning in my newsletter. The conversation I'm having with Trump people and Democrats with data are extremely bullish on Trump's chances.
Well, now you hear him say that, and I'm telling you guys, he's a real legit source, and he does get hold of. He's not a Republican. He's not a Democrat. Well, I think he actually is a Democrat, but he's not biased towards either side. Mark Halperin gets a hold of this information, and again, he has been right before about a lot of stuff, especially the internals that he gets a hold of as far as the Democrats go. They may really, really be in some serious trouble. Now, combine all this stuff, and we asked it before. You and I did on the live stream. All right, why did she do that 60 Minutes interview where they really did ask her some tough questions? And then you follow this up and you go, why is she on The View when they were trying to, 2 weeks ago, they were trying to hide her. Remember that? She wouldn't talk to anybody. Why'd she go on Colbert and do that stupid skit and that thing with the beer, drinking Miller High Life? They may have to. It may be that bad. Here's the other thing it leads to. What if we hear all this stuff, right? And we've got, a couple of weeks to go before this election, whether or not you want to believe the polls. But what if more and more people see, and you can feel it now. You can feel it just with normal people like you and me saying, wow, I don't think she's doing well. What if that only intensifies, right? And yet we, God forbid, get some big surprise on November 5th and she swamps Trump. What if that happens? You're going to have, I hate to say it, you're going to have almost nobody in this country believing, first of all, any polls anymore. Not that we put a lot of faith in them right now, but there's going to be a lot of people thinking something was up. You already got a majority now, a majority of people that think something was fishy in 2020. Something was. No, it wasn't proof because it didn't make it to the courts, but there was a lot of evidence. That's for sure. What if all of this stuff looks bad for Kamala Harris and yet she still wins? That's a scary situation because you're going to have a lot of people that are just done. They're just, and nobody calls for violence, but you can have a lot of people that are ready to revolt in however they choose. You hope that doesn't come to that, but boy, these are wild times. All right, let's get out of I can't talk about politics anymore. God, let's talk about spooky season. Closer to Halloween, too. Don't forget about that. Well, the scariest Halloween story has come to us from real life, from Graceland. Did you see this or hear about this? No, I didn't intentionally see it. So last night, I didn't mean to see, trust me, the interview with Oprah and Riley Keough, Elvis's granddaughter. I unintentionally saw that. It was on the TV when I was trying to watch the hockey game. You hear me, other married dudes? You know exactly where I'm coming from. But it was there, and I'm there, and I'm watching. I'm like, oh, I don't really want to see this. And I'm walking through, and I hear this part where Riley is talking about, sadly, Lisa Marie's son that passed away. I guess he committed suicide in 2020. And she mentioned this part, and Oprah followed up asking about it, how Lisa Marie, his mom, kept his body in the house for 2 months. And I went, I'm sorry? What? Here's the background, because I had to follow up on this morning, because I can't actually believe this happened. The reason why it's coming out now, and the reason why she did this interview with Oprah, is there's an autobiography coming out called From Here to the Great Unknown. It's Lisa Marie Presley's memoir, and it was finished up by Riley Keough, her daughter. Okay, so here's one of the stories that comes out. Sadly, the son who died, Benjamin, was kept at her California house for 2 months after he died. Like, this really happened. Now, they narrate the book, and I had to go and listen to some of the audio narration from Here to the Great Unknown. And the first part you hear is Riley talking about, her perspective on this. And when they go to Lisa Marie's perspective from her voice, they have Julia Roberts narrated for some random reason. But here's the story of them keeping Benjamin in the house.
Told us that if we could tend to the body, we could have him at home. So she kept him in our house for a while on dry ice. It was really important for my mom to have ample time to say goodbye to him, the same way she'd done with her dad.
My house has a separate casita's bedroom, and I kept Ben in there. We had to keep the room at 55 degrees. I think it would scare the living out of anybody else to have their son there like that, but not me.
Yeah, it would scare anybody that came in and saw that. What if there was some poor housekeeper or something that goes in to clean the casita? It goes in there. It sees Ben on dry ice. It's like, oh, Dios mío, it's Ben. Oh, no. Listen, it's a bizarre story. I don't know why they had to keep that in the story, but yeah, it's true, I guess. That's a bizarre family. God love them. Poor Ben on dry ice. Oh, and then there's another follow-up to this. I know you want to get going on with your life here, but get this. This is part that Riley narrated on it. They wanted to get matching tattoos to honor the brother, Benjamin, Ben. But they wanted him exactly where he had him. So you know where I'm going with this. So Lisa Marie takes Riley to see Ben still on the dry ice to get an exact copy of the body, of the tattoo on his body, to make sure that they could see it. Boy, there are times like this, and you hear a story like that where you're like, I'm so glad I have a normal, boring life. Not normal, but boring, for sure. And I'm happy to have it. All right, I got to get out of here. I'm out of material. We're going to keep an eye, obviously, on Hurricane Milton for you, and you pray for those folks that everybody got out of there except the guy in the sailboat. Lieutenant Dan in Tampa Bay. We'll update you on that. And don't forget, we've got this living on as a post on the live stream. It saves as a post on X and on YouTube later on, and the audio podcast as well. Just look for Wicked Radio with Bill Adams on Apple Podcasts as well as Spotify. Appreciate your time so much and sharing that along. It's been really nice. Yeah, I love you for that. All right, motoring towards the end of the week. We'll keep an eye on this storm for you and everything else. Most importantly, remember, don't keep a dead relative on dry ice in the house, and don't ever take any crap from anybody. Have a great day. We'll talk.